Shalom. Let me get straight into this lesson, but I'm gonna go into a lot of different things, but I'm gonna be focusing on honing in on these so-called Christian pastors. They're all frauds, they all false prophets, and they have led many astray, and they're gonna lead many astray continuously. So you pick your poison. You got TD Jakes, you got your Creflo Dollar, there's this devil Billy Graham, you got the Michael Todds. You even got so-called women pastors, which is an abomination, right? So the Christian pastor is a complete joke. It's falling apart, and it ain't no truth in it. And these so-called pastors have to go to seminary school, depending on what denomination that they teach. Which you got, Christian, I'm Slovakia. You got Methodist, Lutheran, Seventh-day Adventist, um, um, Methodist, Presbyterian. Matter of fact, let me do this real quick because I got a list of these different, Latter-day Saints. You got the Church of Mormon, um, and all these. When you go back into all these origins of these different denominations of Christianity, all of it pretty much go to so-called white people. All right, so let's go here. Let me see. Salakia. 1 second. Right here, this some of the list. It says Pentecost, Methodist. I said that one. Lutheran. I said that one. Presbyterian, Baptist. That's a big one among the so-called black people. You Jakes. Like I said, Mormon, the Church of Mormon, Latter-day Saints, Jehovah's Witness. That's a big one among our people as well. And it goes on and on. But the mother of all these organized different Christian denominations go back into the Roman Catholic Church. So let me go back here. So these people have ran a con on our people, and they don't know better. A lot of our people, they want to get lied to, right? Because they're continuously going to these churches, knowing that it don't make sense, But it's all our people know. It's sad. So let me go here. All these different versions, denomination of Christianity, they have to go get trained, right, to teach a certain way. So if they go, let me give you an example. So if they go into the Christian realm of being Baptist, they have to teach the Baptist doctrine, which comes from this Edomite named John Smythe. If I'm saying it, if I'm saying it correctly, John Smith or John Smythe, something like that. You could look him up. But he created the so-called Baptist Church, and then you got Jehovah Witness. I used to know them all off the top of my head. Maybe I should do a refresher lesson for the new brothers and sisters to go into all that history. So-called white man created the Jehovah Witness, and it goes on and on. The Church of Mormon, um, but all these doctrines, all these so-called pastors have to go get trained in whatever denomination of Christianity they're gonna go with. Let me show you and prove this to you. It says yes to a degree, to earn your degree, right? So that's what validates these people of the world. The Most High don't deal with no degree. This is an inheritance for us. This is our culture. This is the way we was born. Like Jeremiah, let's say Jeremiah 1:5. He already ordained Jeremiah to be a prophet. He didn't go to no seminary school, right? So to earn your degree, you typically need to engage with and often a firm. Listen to the words that I'm saying. It says to engage with and often a firm, or at least understand the core theological positions of the seminary, especially if it's a confessional or denominational one. Check this out. It says at a Southern Baptist seminary, you'll likely need to affirm certain views on scripture. What does this word affirm mean? I'm going to go to it so you can get edified. It's about to get heavy. So depending on the denomination that's why you ask people what denomination it is, you can know where they at. If they say Methodist, just study up on Methodist. If they say Baptist, study up on the Baptist doctrines, the false doctrines. And you'll know how to dialogue with them better because you can get in front of them on certain issues. Affirm. It says the word affirm, state as a fact, assert strongly and publicly. You hear what this means? Let's go back here. So they have to affirm. Example, it says at a Southern Baptist seminary, you'll likely need to affirm certain views on scripture. What does this mean in layman terms? They mean you have to agree with the way they're teaching you, which all these false doctrines stem from so-called white men. And it really go back to Jakes too, right? When you go back into the history, these Jakes was wicked as well, back into the so-called Dark Ages. But in recent history, in modern day Christianity, all your so-called Christian, you know, denominations come from so-called white men. You look it up. Every denomination, go to and look it up. It says need to affirm certain views on scripture, salvation, and church governance. So that means they have to agree, they have to be indoctrinated, they have to go with what they've been taught. Give me 1 second. 1 second, Salakia. So I'm not making nothing up. So say if you go to a Methodist seminary, they're gonna train you in the way that they want you to teach. And if you don't align with that, they're not gonna let you be able to get in a loop, right? And let's keep going. It says ordination and ministry opportunities. Listen up to this. It says it depends on your goals. If you're seeking ordination or ministry placement through a denomination, which is all these different Christian denominations, I went through a list of them, that is connected to the seminary. We're going to go to this word seminary as well. It says, listen up, Jake. Aligning with their theology is often expected or required. That's heavy to know that. So that means depending on the denomination of Christianity, they're going to teach exactly how they've been trained to teach. So it's nothing but lies. When you go into all these different denominations, they all wicked. It's all idolatry. It's all lies. It's all false doctrines and so on and so forth. Right? Long-term influence. It says formation matters. Seminary shapes how you read scripture. That's heavy. They're teaching them the interpretation of what the scriptures mean according to what they denomination, they false prophet has taught them. Think about God and do ministry. You hear this? Even if you don't agree with everything, you will need to be influenced by the seminary's ethos. That's heavy. So that meaning, you look at all these different versions and denominations of Christianity, it's all based in lies. It's all based in confusion. It's all based in false doctrines, right? You got a lot of jakes that still believe in hell. You got a lot of jakes that believe in a false Trinity doctrine. What that comes from the Roman Catholic Church, right? You had a breakaway from the Roman Catholic Church called the Protestants, right? And then, it came with all these different doctrines. You got some people believe in the water baptism. That's the Baptist, you know what I'm saying? Um, like I said, it's endless. You got some people, some jakes believe in the Nephilim. They believe angels came down to have sex with women, right? A lot of people think Lucifer, they think the name Lucifer is talking about Satan. That's not talking about Satan. And it goes, it's endless, you know? But whatever denomination of Christianity, if you want to understand what Jake had, ask them what they denomination that they believe in or the denomination they was raised in. Give me 1 second. And I'm gonna go to this word seminary. And all these false doctrines come from the so-called white man. He's infiltrated every facet of the Bible. So when you go into these different Christian churches, no matter, even if it's non-denomination, it's still based into so-called white man Christianity. All of them got that so-called white Jesus image, right? They still come with these false doctrines, right? Seminary. So don't get trapped up in all that madness. It's what you got to completely be reborn. It says right here, seminary. What's the word mean? You have to go into the meaning of words as well. It says Latin. It means semen, seed. So they plant a seed in your mind and train you, right, how they want you to teach. It says seminary, a college that trains students to be priests, rabbis, or ministers. I'm gonna read that again. It says a college that trains students to be priests, rabbis, or ministers. And they go to this word train, because they're teaching them what to think. They're giving them the doctrine and they're going back and parrot that doctrine to you. And they're getting all kind of so-called money if they fall in line and teach these lies. It says train. It says teach a person It says, or animal, a particular skill, or type of behavior through practice and instruction over a period of time. It says to teach, to instruct, educate. These are similar words. So they indoctrinate these so-called pastors to go and they start a so-called church, and they're indoctrinating you on these false so-called white men prophets that came in the 1800s, in the 1700s and the 1600s. And a lot of these Jakes was in this too, because before the so-called white man took over, Jake was doing a lot of this madness. Let's go here. These are doctrines of the devil. So you got to have a hawkish, you got to look at these scriptures in a hawkish manner, right? It says hawkish. It says watching. That's why Jake get tripped up, because they're not detailed. Watching something very closely or with a lot of attention. That's what the word hawkish means. Let me hit this scripture real quick. So this is the book of Matthew 24:11. It says, and many false prophets shall arise and shall deceive many. So it's many of these false prophets, right? Different genres of Christianity. You got the motivational speaking Jakes, like the Joel Osteen, that's hustling people, right? Using the Bible as a prop. Then you got your false prophets that's supposed to be prophesying about all kind of madness. You got them. It's endless. It's like you got different genres of music. You got these different genres of false prophets, these so-called pastors that teach different doctrines to entwine and entrap you. So that's why you have to have sound doctrine. But let's go here. Our people gravitate to this stuff, this madness. Isaiah 30:10. It says, we'll say to the seers, see not, and to the prophets, prophesy not to us right things. Don't tell us the correct doctrine. They don't want to hear that because it's too harsh in some cases. And that's what you people don't understand. That's why you're taken back by the way we come across, because you've been given the presentation of a soft-spoken hustler from the Christian church that's giving you the presentation of the Bible under a motivational speak. It says, speak unto us smooth things. Jake don't like things harsh. It says prophesy deceit. So tell us lies. That's pretty much what they're saying. But you see the audience of these Christian churches full of Jakes. And don't even go to the Edomite Christian church. It's completely bugged out. You might see a clan member in there. You know what I'm saying? So these so-called pastors go, I showed you proof, they go get ordained, right? And ordained is mean, they being trained under the system of denominational Christianity. And all this Christianity goes back to lies, deception, and false doctrine. And most of them go back to Edomites in the modern sense of it. And that's what you under the influence of. Hustle. It says a fraud at the bottom. A fraud or a swindle. So these frauds, these fake so-called Christian pastors, man. Let's go here. I think I have one more scripture lined up. I think that's pretty much it. Let's go back here. And like I said, you got many of these genres of these false prophets. You know what I'm saying? Many of them. Hopefully, this lesson has been edifying. Call Halal Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Brachat, Kodash, Shalom.